Over the last couple of years, I've been asked multiple times about teaching financial literacy, and you just retired. Why did you start this business? Why are you helping so many people? So I'm going to answer that question today. So let's get into it. Welcome back to the High Ground Financial Freedom Podcast, the Freedom Podcast where we talk about faith, family, finance, and fitness. And today I want to answer a question that I've been asked several times over the years. And that is, Dwaylen, Sergeant Major, whatever it is, whatever I'm being called, why do you do what you do? Why do you spend time, talking to people about financial literacy? Why do you spend so much time creating videos, writing content, teaching classes, and helping people understand concepts that most people have never learned? Why are you so passionate about helping people gain more control over their lives? The answer is actually pretty simple. Here's the thing. I never like bullies, okay? I'm not going to say hate because hate's a strong word. I just never have. I never will, And now when most people hear the word bully, what they usually think about is this kid on the playground, the kid who picks on somebody else that's a little smaller. The kid who uses his size, strength, or popularity, to intimidate other people. But the older I've gotten, the more I realize that bullies don't disappear when we become adults. They just get better dressed, these nice suits and ties and things. Some of these bullies, they have titles. Some have positions, they get themselves in positions of authority. Some hide behind different policies. Some hide behind systems. They put systems in place. Some even hide behind information that other people don't even get. And what bothers me isn't that they exist. What bothers me is when good people don't recognize what's happening. For those who may not know, I spent 32 years serving in the military, okay? It is what it is. Over those 3 decades, I've served with some of the finest leaders I've ever met. Men and women who understood that leadership isn't about power, okay? It's about responsibility, okay? It's about service, helping other people. It's about taking care of people. All right. But I've always saw the opposite, and the opposite is this. I saw individuals who became more concerned with rank than responsibility, more concerned with authority than accountability, more concerned with themselves than the people they were supposed to be leading. One of the greatest lessons I've learned as a senior non-commissioned officer was this. The rank on your chest or on your shoulders, depending on when you came in, doesn't make you important. The way you treat people does. Anybody can exercise authority. Anybody can easily tell people what to do. Anybody can do that. Anybody can throw their weight around. But real leadership is different. Real leadership is about dignity and respect. Bottom line. It's about taking care of the people entrusted to you. It's about understanding that every person matters, whether they're the newest private in the formation or the most senior leader in the organization. I learned very early in my career that people will forget what you said. They'll never forget how you made them feel and what you did. But they'll never also forget how hard you put into your day. I've even learned how to inspire great things, okay? I've also learned that leaders destroy morale because they forget that people aren't just tools. They're actually human beings. One of the reasons today is because when I left the military and entered the financial world, I noticed something. A lot of the same problems existed. It wasn't everywhere, okay? And definitely not with everyone, but enough to catch my attention. I saw the good people trying to do the right thing, with the 401ks and the stocks and the bonds, mutual funds. They were crushing it, working hard. They're raising families, they're doing all these things. They're paying bills, they're trying to get after it. They're saving money, all right? They got these checkings accounts, doing all this other stuff. They're trusting professionals with their lifestyle. And yet many of them had no idea how money actually worked. Not because they were lazy, okay? Definitely not lazy. Not because they lacked intelligence. Some of the most intelligent people on the planet. But because nobody ever sat down with them and taken the time to teach them. And when people don't understand something, they become vulnerable. That's when the bullies show up, okay? The person who only cares about a commission. The person who talks down to others to make themselves feel more important. The person who intentionally keeps things complicated because confusion benefits them. The person who uses knowledge as a weapon instead of a tool, okay, that bothers me to the core because a leadership, let me say it this way. Leadership should never be about taking advantage of people. Leadership should be about empowering people, helping them to become stronger, helping them to become more confident in themselves and their abilities. helping them to make informed decisions. One of the things I love most about being a senior non-commissioned officer was mentoring. Watching a young soldier develop over time, watching someone gain confidence, watching someone accomplish something they didn't think they could actually do. There is something incredibly rewarding about helping another person succeed. And that's exactly how I feel about financial literacy. I'm not trying to create followers. I'm trying to create thinkers. I don't want people blindly agreeing with me. No way. I want them to ask questions, Keep asking questions. I want them learning. I want them understanding enough that they can recognize when someone doesn't make sense, because knowledge creates options, and options creates freedom. The freedom to make better decisions, The freedom to provide for your family. That's the freedom to avoid costly mistakes. The freedom to stand on your own 2 feet. The freedom to say no when something isn't right. That's why financial literacy matters. So much bigger than money. Not because everybody wants to become wealthy, but because everyone deserves the opportunity to understand the game they're already playing. And this goes beyond money. This applies to faith. This applies to your family. It applies to finance. It applies to fitness. Getting it in every day. Every pillar of life. The goal isn't to be perfect. It's definitely not perfection. The goal is growing each day. The goal is becoming a little better tomorrow than you are today. When I look around our world, I see division, and it's like, man, enough negativity, enough people trying to tear each other down. What I don't see enough of are leaders. Not leaders because of your rank, not leaders because of titles, not leaders because of social media followers, leaders because they genuinely care about people. Leadership, who's willing to share what they learn? Leaders who are willing to pull others forward. Leaders who understand that success isn't measured by how many people serve you. Success is measured by how many people you actually serve and help. That's the lesson I learned in the military, and that's what was taught to me. That's the lesson life has reinforced. And that's the reason I continue to do what I do. Not because I have all the answers, no way. Not because I'm smarter than anybody else, but because I've spent 32 years watching what happens when people use authority correctly. And I spent 32 years watching what happens when they don't. The leaders I respected, most weren't the loudest. They weren't the most intimidating. They weren't the most feared. They were the ones who treated people with dignity and respect. The ones who actually cared about other people. The ones who actually spent time to teach. The ones who served other people. And if I can bring even a small piece of that mindset into what I do every day, then every video, every podcast, every conversation is worth it. Because the world already has enough people trying to take advantage of others. What it needs is more people willing to lift others up. And that's what I do. So I hope you have a great day. God bless. And let's continue to get that financial freedom.